When someone asks you to make a film about Sonic, you have a difficult choice. If you choose any style or backstory for him, you're going to piss off and alienate a wide collection of fans. It seems like no matter what the filmmakers choose, the fans are gonna hate it. And it is true that a lot of Sonic fans pack a lot of hate for certain shows and games.
Why can't you guys just ask for a 3D environment classic Sonic game? This is a nightmare!
I mean, how many of you are posting comments right now like, I'll hate this film if Shadow isn't in it.
Better have Knuckles.
I want Sally Acorn or I'm out.
If they do live action, they had better have Chris.
I hate this film because Sonic is missing his scarf.
They better not make it without Super Sonic.
Big the Cat sucks and you're gay.
I've had with all you frickin' trolls and all you frickin' haters and all you frickin' Sonic fan freaks!
I think you get my point. Let's talk about what we know about the film. The film is said to be a live-action film featuring Sonic the Hedgehog. The director of the film, Jeff Fowler, is a first-time director, but the director of Deadpool signed on as an executive producer. But that doesn't mean much. An executive producer is typically a money-related producing position. The two writers of the film are the brilliant minds behind the first two Dorm Days films, and they haven't really been up to much since. And as of the creation of this video, we do not have much to go on. They announced that they were going to make this thing way back in 2014, and after 3 years the only information that we have is just a couple of key positions, and it's supposed to come out next year? That can't be good. Off the bat I can guarantee a few things. First off, there will be no third-party characters. That's right, no Princess Sally, no Justin Bieber, no Manic, no Grounder, no Julie Sue, or anybody like that. They were all created by different companies and studios, so official ownership might be questionable. Remember, just recently lawsuits brought down the long-running comic series, so my guess is that only officially licensed Sega characters are going to appear in the film. And I know, I'd love to see something from the expanded lore. Maybe a cameo of Princess Sally running some city somewhere? But realistically, why take the risk for an outdated 90s reference that most modern kids aren't gonna get anyway? It probably won't happen. I do see something troubling about this poster. See how Sonic is going through that portal ring? That implies interdimensional travel. So let's talk about the worst case scenario. Sony Pictures is producing this film, and they're also the ones responsible for the Smurfs and Alvin and the Chipmunks films, so my guess is that they're gonna do some kind of crappy fish out of water story. A film where Sonic and Eggman fight in a CG world and then get thrown into our modern day New York and Sonic befriends some terrible child actor with a divorced parent's side story.
I didn't think you could talk.
Well, I can do a lot of things.
Wow, that's awesome. That you can talk, I mean.
Ugh. Honestly, the entire concept of Sonic existing in a live-action scenario is just off-putting. Every attempt I've ever seen just looks bad. And that's because he just doesn't fit in standing next to people. Not to mention, Sonic has a history of disgusting relationships with humans. Ugh. Really, if you want to see a live-action Sonic film, just make The Flash. They're extremely similar characters in spirit, and this way the protagonist can fit into his environment and have relationships that aren't on the edge of bestiality. Ugh.
Well, gee, Derek, you think you're so smart? What would you make?
Well, yeah, that's a tough question. So let's dive into what I would think would make a good Sonic film. I just want to start with the medium. I'm going to make a bold statement here and say stay away from live action at all cost. Just know it's not necessary. I'd go with like a Pixar, Disney, DreamWorks animation style. Like, remember Zootopia? Yeah, look at this place, it's absolutely gorgeous, it would be a good environment for action. And look at that, Sonic just fits in here. It's like he exists in this universe. A lot of Sonic's action happens in a lot of really weird, surrealist environments. And in a live action medium, that's not gonna look very great. But you could actually believe that places like this would exist outside of a city like Zootopia. You could see him going from a location that looks like this, to a location that looks like this. But can you really picture him doing all this in New York, or in Chicago, or in Japan? Maybe Japan, that would be sweet. A completely computer-generated environment would fix a lot of serious problems. So now for the hard part. What version of Sonic do we use? There is one path of least resistance. Each one of these fractured Sonics was based off the original property, the classic Sonic games. Even all of the new games rely on classic Sonic nostalgia to make sales. The largest hype I've seen in recent years was for Sonic Generations and Sonic Mania. We might never see another Sonic game without classic Sonic involved in one way or another. And don't forget about the film industry. 99% of films are prequels, sequels, spin-offs, or reboots. Today, the world of cinema is based solely on nostalgia. It's the only thing dragging people to theaters, and it's the only reason why Sonic is getting a film in the first place. So hitting the nostalgia angle seems to make sense here.
Studios should stop recycling the same tired old properties and make something original for once.
So what does that mean? It means I'd go with the modern character designs, but I'd also go simple. Strip away what doesn't work and keep what we know works. So let's talk villain. I like to make the argument that the villain is actually more important than the hero. And think about it, the entire plot is based off the conflict that the villain provides. Good conflict is born in opposition, so our hero and villain need to be the polar opposites of each other, both physically and thematically. So let's go ahead and take a look at Sonic himself. Sonic represents physical abilities, a youthful attitude, and has a pro-nature theme. And Sonic's not very smart. He often falls into traps and has to rely on his physical abilities to get him out of trouble. So Sonic's villain should be the opposite. Someone with no physical abilities, older and out of touch, has a pro-technology theme, is very smart, and relies on his intelligence and planning to get out of trouble. Even though at first these two don't seem to fit together, they're actually really perfect for each other. Dr. Robotnik started off as a great villain, but over the years he just stopped being a villain and started becoming some kind of goofball that acts as a catalyst to keep the plot moving forward. Instead, the main conflict is with some monster or some creation that Eggman loses control over. So if you're gonna make a good Sonic movie, then take Dr. Robotnik seriously and make him the primary villain. I was a huge fan of what SATAM and the Sonic Archie comics did with the character, and I would expand on that for the film. In the comics, humans were known as overlanders, and they're all but extinct. It's implied that Robotnik committed genocide on his own race and is now looking to expand his death campaign to everyone else. The villain should be terrifying, but he should also be eccentric. A brilliant mind usually comes with some social and behavioral drawbacks.
You certainly seem like a special lady, but as you know, you missed the deadline, so thanks for playing.
How could you send her away?
She was late. And she found atomic spectroscopy boring. Oh, I wouldn't coitus her with your genitals.
In the comics, Robotnik ignored the suffering of his entire army just for a chance to annoy Sonic. We could add a Moby Dick-style conflict here. And he should be Dr. Ivo Robotnik. But Sonic should call him Eggman just to piss him off. And he should look like the modern games. Except for one idea. What if the entire universe is CG except for Dr. Robotnik? What if it were Danny DeVito and a little prop scooter on a green screen?
I am not a human being! I am an animal! Cold-blooded!
Whatever they end up going with, Eggman needs to be an effective and competent villain. Because otherwise Sonic looks like he's weak. He can't defeat some kind of goofy buffoon. In our culture today, Sonic is getting old. The 90s were a long time ago and his legacy has faded. So what if we add that struggle to the character himself? What if all he wants is to not be the hero anymore? He's been running for so long, and in the games and in the shows, he's always keeping all the other characters at arm's length. And he's constantly keeping up this self-image of coolness, like nothing ever bothers him. Maybe he thinks he can't have anybody get too close to him because that would make them a target. I'd like to see a film that starts with a huge battle between Sonic and Robotnik that ends the typical way, Sonic winning. But this time it's different because both characters are tired of fighting. Sonic heads home to a parade in his honor in Zootopia where he feels like a phony. He pushes away Amy and Tails and just wants to be alone. He could even blow up at Tails and then run off. Meanwhile, Robotnik has had enough too. He's realized that as long as Sonic exists, he can never win, so he dedicates all of his resources towards killing Sonic. But how? There are a lot of really neat locations and MacGuffins in Sonic. The Chaos Emeralds, the Floating Island, the Master Emerald with Knuckles, the Little Planet and the Time Stones, the Death Egg and the Giant Egg Robot. And frankly, I'd love to see Robotnik use any of these, or all of them, or even some new elements as well. So what if Robotnik uses the Chaos Emeralds or something to power some new super weapons and he invades Zootopia?
Ah! Run him!
He could finally succeed in capturing everyone, including Amy Rose. Sonic gets his butt kicked and he has to get over his attitude and ask his friends for help. Only together can they free everyone and beat Eggman. His friends gather the emeralds, Sonic goes super and saves the day. Sonic will end up getting a lot closer with the people around him, and he'll feel like he doesn't have to act like that super cool guy all the time, that he can actually express himself. And Eggman will end up losing everything, except for his hatred. The film's themes being, get over yourself, teamwork, and always do the right thing. with a really subtle environmental message as well, because that's always been prevalent in the Sonic series.
Taste that polluted air, Sniffly. Soon, all of Robotropolis will have the same fragrance.
That's a bare bones plot. Add some comedy, add some twists and turns, maybe a couple new characters, but I feel like that's an okay starting place. There have been a lot of really cool and imaginative entries in his legacy, but there have also been a lot of really lazy and cliche entries as well.
You guys are the ones that ruined Sonic for everyone! Can't you see that?
I don't really have much confidence in this company, or the team making the film. Sony Pictures is having quite a few problems, and now they have less than a year to get this thing done on time, and it still says it's in pre-production. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if this film is never completed. And down the road, if some other studio tried to start up another Sonic film, they're just gonna run into all the same problems. A Sonic film is just a bad idea. Sonic is fun to play as in an interactive medium, but he's not that deep or interesting of a character to hold a complicated or serious plot. I think it's just a no-win scenario for any filmmaker that takes up the challenge. A film about our favorite hedgehog here would get a lot more hate and a lot less love from an already pissed off and angry fan base. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, because next time we're diving into more of this same